Today, I'm visiting a neighborhood technically in Michigan, but geographically, it's inside Toledo. Right now, a seiche is hitting Lake Erie.
That's called a seiche.
A seiche happens when the wind gets so strong it pushes all the water to the side and exposes the entire lake bed. Over the last week, people have been walking on land that's normally underwater. They've been finding random stuff like car parts, old jewelry, things that have been buried for decades. If you didn't know though, all of this exposed land over here, it used to be called the Great Black Swamp. It covered northwest Ohio and southeast Michigan. Before they drained the swamp, it was super hard to cross and impossible to map, and it was full of mosquitoes and frogs. That's why Toledo originally got the nickname Frogtown. People used to have to fight to keep the frogs out of their basements. The swamp was messy, but it was really important because it connected to Lake Erie and a new canal where ships traded goods and obviously made their money. But in 1830s, these bad maps meant that both Ohio and Michigan claimed the same 8 miles of land along the lake called the Toledo Strip. Both sent their small little armies to fight for it, and this became the Toledo War. Although, not sure if you could call it an actual war because there was only one real injury where a man named Stickney used a penknife on an Ohio sheriff. It really all came down to politics because at the time Ohio was already a state, Michigan wasn't, which meant Ohio had electoral votes, and President Jackson didn't want to lose those. The U.S. government convinced Michigan to give up the strip in exchange for statehood and a chunk of land farther north, the Upper Peninsula. At the time, people thought it was worthless, but we know it turned out that the UP is rich in copper, iron, and timber. Michigan really ended up making out like a bandit with that deal, but the border was redrawn and things were left all weird all over the map, and a small piece of Michigan got cut off. This is the Lost Peninsula. You can only reach it by driving through Ohio. People here live in Michigan, vote in Michigan, pay Michigan taxes, but they're surrounded fully by Ohio. Even the kids here have to bus through Ohio to get to school in Michigan every day. The neighborhood's basically stuck behind enemy lines after the whole split, and even though the war ended on paper, I think that most locals would say that the tensions never did. Now it shows up in all these other ways, like college football. Michigan versus Ohio State is still one of the biggest rivalries. Every fall, the whole bread and circus fight starts again. But there is a part that people always leave out. Before all this, the land belonged to indigenous nations like the Potawatomi, Shawnee, Wyandot, Ottawa, and Miami. So when the fight over the land happened, they weren't included. And even today, they're barely mentioned. They were here first, and I think that's the part of the story that really matters.